Hello everybody, I'm Matt and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Adventures of Superman, Book of L, Issue 2 by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Scott Godlewski, Alex Guimarães, and Matt Herms. Superman's adventure into the far future continues as Superman and the young man named Ronan battle the Summermen. Johnson does some really cool lore building here as he explains how the 30th century has become not just all about humans, or, the 30th century Earth is not all just humans now, it's various alien races, species, and everything in between, including the Summermen, who are a group of post-Kryptonian peacekeepers who are all about zealous loyalty to the current Luthor of Tropolis. This is the stuff I really love in sci-fi. It's weird concepts, they just kind of drop you into it. You've kind of got to like pick things up, like they call Metropolis now the Tropolis Kine. They have all these words for stuff. They call what Smallville has become a fief. All these really cool concepts that I like when a writer does in sci-fi, and it's not just using modern terms. They're coming up with words and bringing back old school words that we've heard before but haven't in a long time, and just combining it all together to make something really weird and wonderful. The Summermen here are really interesting too. We only get a little bit about them and about how they're sort of a peacekeepers, but they definitely are not good guys. In fact, they feel very much like Puritans in that they immediately try and burn and kill things that are different or unlike things they have seen before. They don't want to learn about them, they just want to destroy it because it's different. Superman and Ronan decide to fight, and during the tussle, the Summermen call Ronan Kent, much to Clark's shock. There's little bits here and there that Johnson and Godlewski do to show Ronan is still very young and inexperienced, as his fight causes some collateral damage with a cable car being blasted off its cables, and he's forced to leave the battle to save them. Luckily, Superman is there to help out and rescue Artifice, the little green being the Summermen are trying to kill. It's during this part that Clark actually gets to use his cape to shield himself and Artifice, which I always love when a writer-artist duo remember that the cape is indestructible and they can use it as like a shield. It's always really fun. Superman unleashes a special energy blast that blasts the Summermen away, leaving the heroes safe from harm. Ronan recognizes who Superman is, not believing that he is finally back, as the hero knows that he's got to get back to his family, since they were under invasion from the war zones. Clark wants to get to the Fortress of Solitude, since there is something there that can aid them in his way home to Smallville, but Ronan reveals he is in Smallville, just nearly 1,000 years in the future, where Smallville has become known as the Planter's Fief of Mergasignet Kine. Johnson gave us little bits of this future world during his Future State and Warworld Saga books, and I always really liked how, while vague, it still alluded to just being totally different than Earth that we're used to. Like, everything has changed so drastically. There's still little bits of familiar things here, and they help ground us on where we are, but for the most part, it's just completely alien. The same can be said about what's become of Metropolis, which is now called Tropolis Kine, where the city ruler is the Luthor, quote-unquote, who makes a televised address to the people, telling them how much they are loved and how their city grows more and more diverse each day thanks to the Promethean king who rules over everything. We get a really fucking awesome twist here where it's revealed the Luthor isn't actually a Luthor at all. In fact, they aren't a real person. They are a sick robot puppet that has been puppeteered by Brainiac, who's returned to a form very much like his early New 52 Action Comics look, this kind of robotic bug spider alien thing. Brainiac reveals to one of his underlings that he continues this charade because Terrans thrive on the familiar, and Metropolis was ruled by a Luthor for centuries when they appeared on Earth, so the city always needs one. I really do like how much this goes back to the early New 52 stuff, where at that point in the early New 52, Lex was really a puppet to Brainiac for a while. He was, doing his bidding in order to get hold of Superman and bottle the city and everything, where here it's quite literal. He's a literal puppet, but I always like the idea of the smartest man in the world meeting his match in the 12th level intellect, who just, turns him into a mouthpiece, more or less, and Lex kind of has to go along with it because there's nothing else he can do. After the broadcast, Brainiac receives a call from his master Krillux, the Promethean King. Krill has learned of the skirmish in the Planter's Fief and demands to know why he was not informed of maybe Superman making an appearance. Brainiac replies that it was too small for Krill to deal with himself, but he informs Brainiac that the peasant, quote-unquote, involved in the fight was Ronan Kent, and the second fighter was wearing a Superman sigil on his chest. Brainiac says that it's impossible as Krillux killed Superman thousands of years ago, but Krillux still fears that Superman has somehow returned, meaning his rule and his plans are now in jeopardy. He instructs Brainiac to track Superman, kill who has aided him, and then capture the Man of Steel and bring the hero before him. I'm really happy that Krillux has been making a return in this book and has become the main villain. He's one of the more interesting original characters Johnson created for the Warworld saga, and taking him from reluctant ally of Superman during the Warworld saga to full-blown villain in search of revenge has been just thoroughly interesting. Across the world, Superman and Ronan fly to the Fortress of Solitude. As they fly, Ronan informs Superman that he is the last of their family on Earth, and although he has cousins living on other worlds, the House of El broke up a long time ago. I'm glad we didn't get some giant reveal with Ronan to Superman. We know, of course, Ronan thanks to those Future State books, but Superman doesn't actually know who this kid is, so I figured they'd do a big reveal, especially with Ronan's costume we've seen on the covers for the preceding issues after this, where he's wearing it right now, but the hoodie he's wearing is covering it up, and it's kind of ripped a little bit, and it looks like we would have had that moment where he kind of rips the hoodie off and reveals the House of El symbol, but we don't get that, and I kind of like that. It's kind of bucking the trend of what that would usually be. Johnson's setting it up for the House of El not really existing anymore is kind of the perfect chance for that to happen, as Ronan no doubt will become the one who brings the house back to his former glory thanks to Superman giving him that sort of inspiration he needs to become a proper hero. When they enter the fortress, Superman is shocked to find it's quite neglected, and Ronan admits he very rarely visits as there is no need to. Throughout this book, Johnson has peppered 30th century lingo all through the book, so we get words like shine and shriv in place of other words like kill and honorable, and Ronan uses them quite a bit, especially when talking to Superman, especially in this part, about how his high adventure days of slaying dragons are over, since now the world has become the dragon and it's impossible to slay. Going deeper into the fortress, Ronan says that there is a historian who lives there known only as the Old Man, and he wants Superman to meet him before he does anything else. Ronan leads Superman to a room in the fortress where a perfect replica of the Kent farmhouse is there, as it was the day Superman disappeared. Clark tells Ronan to go ahead without him, since he's going to finally hang the gate he was intending to fix with Pa Kent the day of the invasion. Surprised this was actually included, because I was sure that that was going to be kind of the wraparound, like he goes through this giant adventure throughout this book, and in the final couple of pages of the final issue of the event, Clark gets a wholesome moment there where just has a moment with his father. He gets to hang the fence, and he finishes up, because they had that line that he gets repeated here where he says he'll be back to finish that fence, and that's what it felt like it was building to. So to have it here, and then also to have it be done off panel, because we don't get to see Superman hang that fence, really strange. As Clark hangs the gate, Ronan goes to the fortress's library to speak with the chronicler of the House of El, the Old Man, a man so old that his real name is forgotten. He asks the chronicler if he remembers what he wanted to say if Superman ever saw him again, and Superman eventually arrives and asks the chronicler if they know each other, and to his shock, Clark recognizes him as Jimmy Olsen, somehow still alive after 1,000 years. This is such a fun reveal, since I assumed the Old Man would maybe be, Old Man Lex Luthor himself, or they keep the Old Man identity a complete secret, and maybe there was like hints here and there that, oh, maybe it's Clark himself. But I love it being Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. It's just so much more impactful that way. Jimmy is well aware Superman is Clark Kent as well, calling Superman Mr. Kent from now on instead of Superman. After reuniting with his old friend, Superman tells him that he's going to take the temporal glider from the fortress and use it to help fix the timeline, so that none of this ever happened, but Jimmy tells him he can't, since there are other things he needs to know, as the day he disappeared, he was not the only one. Before Jimmy can reveal who else was zapped into the future, the fortress is attacked by Brainiac and his summer men, who followed the heroes to the fortress and want to take him alive. Adventures of Superman, Book of L Issue 2 was a rather brisk read, never really slowing down from those opening pages, which is all a little bit to the book's detriment, since Johnson dives headfirst into all of this lore and new history he's writing for the House of L. So much so, I kind of wish it did kind of just slow down for a touch. We get to ingest a little bit of it and kind of learn a little bit more about this world. Still, it's got some really fun reveals, especially with Brainiac still being around, and of course Jimmy Olsen being there, and I'm looking forward to Johnson finally getting into it all in the next issue, especially because he has so much leftover Warworld stuff that I can't wait to see him dive into. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.